going to open it up to questions to the two candidates standing for Deputy President, so for Luke and for Dane. So who would like to ask the first question to one of the two candidates?
I can go first. Oh, Scotty, do you want to go?
On you go, Claire, and I think Scotty's next. I can see, I've got you all in multi-screen. I can see the hand waves. On you go, Claire.
It's for Dane. You said that you have you're rerunning because there's so many things that you see that you want to happen. There's these things that you promised last year when you was elected and you've not had a chance to do them, or are these things that have come up during your time of office and you've not had time to do them? Or why is there so many more things that you want to do within UHISA?
It's a mix of both. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, thank you, Claire. Dane, on you go.
It's a mix of both, actually, but mostly the second. It is quite a demanding job. You often have to drop projects when more urgent things come up. A lot of the things were, when I ran last year, I wasn't really prepared to run. I don't feel I ran against reopen nominations, and when I got in the position, I was a bit lost at first. But over the year, I've talked to a lot of different people and gotten a lot of different feedback on different issues, which has really informed my campaign and my manifesto this year. Everything in the manifesto, it's not just me pulling things from here and there. It's things that I've heard from comments from students that I've tried to incorporate into something that sort of is cohesive. Things that I wanted to do, for example, we created a website this year which was on the to-do list, something I wanted to do. I really wanted it launched before Christmas. It's only happened just the week of elections campaigning, and to go along with that, one of the key things I want to do is work on a communication strategy. Just having a website isn't really all that impressive. It doesn't do anything if the website itself isn't effective. So there's things that I've been working on that I'm not sure if I'll be able to finish. I hope to be able to finish them before I would leave office so I'm not re-elected. But there's things that I haven't been able to, projects I haven't really been able to get my teeth into just because of the other areas that I've been gone down. So I hope that answers that question.
Thank you, Dane. Claire, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Scotty, I think you were next in line there to ask a question.
Thank you. I've got a question for Luke and then a question for Dane. It's in a similar subject, but it's different for each one. Luke, you mentioned satellite SAs. I'm not quite sure if I'm picking satellite student associations in at HTC and Murray. Are you suggesting that UHISA, Internet Student Association, should branch out into these into the surrounding college sites?
Okay, Scotty, I know you've got a question for Dane, but can we take that one first so that Luke can answer? Luke?
It's perhaps a possibility. Certainly with Dingwall being so close to Inverness, that there are some shared issues. I wouldn't want to step on the toes if HTC wanted to form their own students' association, and if they decided to do that, then offering all of the support that Inverness College Students Association could. But it's something that UHISA could do as well, is to take their knowledge and their experience into colleges that don't have students' association and try and help them. It's a suggestion of two perhaps separate ideas of how we would get better student representation from those colleges for obviously the benefit of the students and in the way that they want it to be.
Thanks, Luke. Does that answer your question, Scotty?
Yes, it does, thank you. On a similar theme for Dane then, just looking at your manifesto, it's saying working with local student associations is crucial to my vision, and then you're suggesting of building up a regional forum for UHISA and local student associations. My understanding of the original construction of UHISA Student Council was that it was a regional forum, that the council was made up of members of the UHISA's own executive as well as the presidents of the students' associations, and that gave them a real solid say in how UHISA is run. That's now been changed, and now it's just a one member, one vote, one student, one vote thing on UHISA, and there's been very much, local student associations didn't engage with it. I'd be interested to see how, having dissolved the structure which gave local student associations the ability to have an effective say in UHISA, how your idea of creating something which is little more than a talking shop with no power is likely to actually work better.
Yeah, well actually, it's good that you bring that up because you actually just laid out the background of where this idea came from. That's exactly where it comes from, is the idea that student council, the restructure has changed how it interacts. Now, I would like to say that I think it'll be more than a talk and shop, but I believe that quite a lot of what we do is talking, and I think that talking is important. And I see one of the problems is that we don't necessarily talk enough in a constructive way in a forum. And if we do talk, it might be UHISA and Inverness talking about one thing, and it might be UHISA and Solomon talking about completely different things. But there's not really a place where we all come together. And it's not about, the way I see it is it's not about it being necessarily part of UHISA. I see it as being something that puts all of the students' associations on a level playing field together, where they will have sort of a neutral space to discuss things between each other. It's not UHISA and the student associations, it's all the students associations. And I really want to see this something that the other students associations would actually try to take ownership of as somewhere that they can work together or discuss similar issues that they may have and solutions that someone has come up with that might be applicable, or at least give a springboard for officers and other associations. Does that answer the question, Scotty, or are you looking for something a bit different?
Yeah, I think that more or less answers the construction of what you're doing, but I think it also begs the question of why. Why should local student association that's concerned about organising its freshers events and its parties and its ceilidhs and what's happening on the ground, why should it take part in what you're doing?
Well, that's a good question, Scotty. I suppose it depends on how you want to see things. If you don't believe that we should have anything to do with our neighbours, then UHISA shouldn't exist either, arguably. Then there's no need for something that it should all be local. That there should be no cross fertilization of ideas. That there should be no communication. That we should all operate in our own little spheres and keep it that way. I personally disagree with that. I think that we can learn a lot from each other. I think that we can help each other, and I see this as something that would give a platform to do that. And this is something that I see as, it's in my manifesto, but it's something that other people will have to help me with and run with. And if they don't want this, then that's their decision not to engage with it. And then it will just, we'll go back to the representation project. This is something I should say that I see as an interim structure, and it's a bit of a test. Something that the representation project can watch and see if it develops, and something that they can throw out in the next coming years when they come up with something better, to head off any questions about how it interacts with the representation project.
Thank you, Dave. I think that's answered your question, Scotty. Is that okay? Okay, next question then. I'm going to let this run on for about another 10 minutes. So questions for, Rachel's got her hand up there and Sam's. Questions for the two deputy president candidates. Rachel?
Hiya, this one's for Luke. It's about, you mentioned 54% of the population define themselves as Christian and using this as a reason to hold a Christmas event for a gathering of Christian students. I just wanted to challenge, given that UHISA represents all students, do you feel that it would be appropriate for UHISA to organise a Christian-only event rather than supporting an autonomously run Christian union or faith society and empowering them to organise for themselves what their members want to see? For me, this is a bigger question, and it's not just about Christian faith. It's about all different types of liberation groups and self-defining groups, including LGBT and disabled students, women's, different things. So I just wanted to see what you thought.
Thank you, Rachel. Luke?
Excellent question. Thank you, Rachel. I think with all of the ideas that we all have as candidates and all the policies that we're running on with our manifestos, ultimately the policies are going to come from the students. It's going to be what they want, and anything that we suggest that they're not happy with, then of of course, democracy rules, and it wouldn't necessarily be a Christian-only event. And I would certainly look to a group of Christians to organise this event. They know better than me. I'm not a Christian. If that is what they would like to do, it's an idea. I think that it could be a popular event. I know that many Christians regularly meet with each other in the various congregations, and it's something that their communities are very active about. And it could be something that lends its strength to the sense of community for UHISA.
Thank you, Luke. Does that answer your question, Rachel?
Not entirely. It's more about, do you feel that it's appropriate for UHISA to be telling certain groups what they should be doing and organising it for them, rather than supporting them to form a group and then letting them do what they want to do, whatever group that may be. It's just that you use Christianity as an example in your campaign.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Luke?
I'm certainly not telling anyone to do anything. I'm sorry if that was the impression that was given by that. It was merely a suggestion. And certainly, I didn't answer your question fully. I recognise that other groups that want to do other events should be empowered to do that as well. And UHISA should fully support all of those different groups in any way they can.
Thank you, Luke. Rachel?
Thank you.
Okay. Next question then. Oh, I can see a hand wave coming from HTC there, I think it is. Heidi?
Yep.
No, Claire,
sorry. It's
Claire.
It's kind of both.
Okay, Ilse, on you go. What is your question?
It's actually about further education, because I know that the FE students don't really have a voice in anything. So although it's directed at the Depute President candidates, it's really sort of encompassing the President and the Vice President and kind of everyone in general for UHISA. So I only thought of it really now, unfortunately, and the Deputes are speaking. Sorry. And that basically, if we come up with clubs or societies and they are for everybody on campus, it's higher education students and further education students. But at the same time, further education students can't vote for UHISA. So I'm just wondering how it's possible we can try and encompass this and how we can work with further education students, how they can have a voice as well. Don't know really if that was a very clear question, but pro ME. Yeah, so we have access students on our campus and we have very little campus, and if we were to form clubs and societies, it would include them as well, and yet they're not able to vote. So.
Okay, so is that a question then to the two deputies?
Yeah, sorry, it's for both of you, and it wasn't a very clear question either. I'm sorry.
Just to recap, Ilse, it was about the engagement of FE students when they aren't allowed to participate in UHISA elections and so on. Is that correct? Sorry.
Yes, pretty much.
Is that okay? Dane and Luke. Dane, you have your hand up even first. So Dane, would you like to take the question first and give Ilse a reply?
Yeah. I think actually, I'm sorry, Luke, but there's probably not too many answers to this. It's not so much a question about campaigns for us, so to speak. Right now, there is a representation project that is being funded by the Scottish Government, which is looking at the representation structures at UHI and academic partners. That includes UHISA as it currently exists and local academic students associations, because they have identified the issue that that FE students aren't represented in UHISA, that they can't vote, and it's all based around the way the Scottish Funding Council funds higher education and further education separately, and it doesn't really make any sense for the students. It makes sense for the people who are providing money to the institutions, but doesn't really work for us. So right now we'll be going into the second year of the project next academic year. and that project is currently looking at how to get around this problem. And as UHISA and as whoever gets elected, we'll be working with the representation project in whatever way we can help them to answer questions and things like that to hopefully come up with a solution to this. But it's something that we'll be working on indirectly rather than directly. Currently, club and societies, we've sort of, I probably shouldn't say this on camera, but we kind of overlook the participation of FE students in clubs, as long as the majority of students are HE students. And there's certain things we do to get around that, but there is the possibility. And actually, I think this question might be good for Alan to answer later on during the Vice President section if you want to ask it again to him. Or, sorry, just...
Thank you very much, Dave. Luke, do you have anything else to add to that or to answer it in your own way as well? Because Elsa did ask you both.
Yeah. Please, I know what you're saying about the Student Representation Project, and Alan and I are both focus group facilitators for that Student Representation Project. And I think we're both looking forward to seeing what that discovers and the suggestions going forward about how a new structure would be implemented in the year after next. But it's a problem now. And I think that there needs to be some form of structure that would allow all of students to come together in some respect. I don't know what that structure would be, and I think we need to ask the students what they're looking for. And I don't know where the money would come from for that, because, as Dane pointed out, the Scottish Funding Council supports the students in different ways. And maybe there could become some kind of split. But I think something needs to be done. Alan pointed out that perhaps one of the suggestions the Student Representation Project might have going forward would be to have two students' associations running alongside one another whilst one is run down and one starts. Perhaps we need to bring the start of that other student association forward that does achieve that goal of making sure that all students are represented.
Thank you, Luke and Dane. Ailsa, does that answer your question?
It does. I've actually also had Rachel Facebooking me about the legal side of it as well, so that's basically answered my question. So
Brilliant. Okay. Well, we're 2 minutes to 3, so at this stage I would like to move on to the Vice President candidates. Sorry?
Sorry, can I ask a question quickly?
Okay. Yes, ask a quick question. We've got 2 minutes till 3 o'clock, so we're running a bit before.
Sorry, look, you're saying that you want to help the local student associations, external campuses, by supporting them and giving them some form of structure. But in the end, you also just mentioned there opening another student association to work with FE students. Are you planning on opening like 17, 16 different student associations, or are you just going to support local ones and create a separate one? You just kind of contradicted yourself a little bit there.
Okay, thank you for your question. Luke?
I see what you mean. Perhaps I could have been clearer there. I think that the system at the moment is clearly not working for some students. Some students are represented twice, some once, some not at all. I would like to, in the interim, before the Student Representation Project is implemented the year after next, to fill those gaps through a range of different measures. It is a little bit complicated, I'll admit, perhaps satellite students associations, perhaps supporting students associations in areas where none exist, or trying to start them, and also a students association that covers all students as a whole. But the system at the moment is complicated too. It's really recognising that there are students that are not being represented and trying to help them to be represented. I don't have the full answer yet, and it would be something I would like to work on, and obviously the students would be consulted hugely as to what solutions they would like to see, and then moving into the Student Representation Project, hopefully that would be the solution that fixes it all.
Thank you, Luke.
Yeah, thank you. That's
Brilliant.